everybody, this is Brennan at common-motor.com on the internet. In this series, over the course of the next, I don't know, few nights, we're going to be reassembling a CB450 motor with the help of Jonathan, who's holding the camera. Say hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
And this motor is going to go back into this bike. This is basically going to be the continuation of Project Diamond, although it's technically a different motor. Although, I said although again twice. The motor is in the exact same state that Diamond is when we stopped filming, so it's actually a really good point to pick up. And if you, Jonathan, you pan down here, you can see that we already have a bunch of the parts kind of bagged up, labeled, clean, ready to go, and we're going to start assembling. So we're just going to film this as we go, and hopefully document along the way, just like we do with Diamond, and get this motor back together here. Okay, so we're gonna start with the crankshaft here, and so already this stuff's been cleaned and inspected and all within tolerance. And on these 450s, the main bearings are loose rollers on these races, so we're just using a couple rubber bands to hold them in place. But before I drop them into the back into the crankcase here, we're gonna put some oil on these rollers to make sure they are good and lubed up. I'm actually going to use two things. One, I'm going to use a little bit of engine assembly lube in here, and I'm just going to pull this guy back. I'm not going to take it all the way off because I don't want to lose the rollers, right? I'm just going to dribble some of this in here. It's like honey. And hopefully I can do this without knocking this thing apart. There you go. Right in there. In fact, let's see, it's super sticky. Just put some motor oil there. Bearings. Make sure they're good and lubricated. Yeah, I'm just going to do the same thing for all the other bearings as well. Slide that one out. Come on. There we go. Put the same lube in there. Also a little bit of motor oil in there as well. Well, you rubber bands are doing such a good job. That in there. Turn this around so you guys can see a little better. Look at this last one on this side here. Alright, we're putting the alignment pin in the crankcase here, and that holds the bearing, and that's going to be on this side of the crankshaft here. It should be this pin. There's an alignment pin here, here, and here, and then there's a different alignment pin here, and these are all oil passages, so when the pins are lined up, it lines up the oil passages. So, those guys kind of in the same relative position, and this guy's going to have to kind of go down. Up the crankshaft into the block here, and at this point we're going to have to pull off our rubber bands because come on, rubber band. Alright. Find our spot. Sorry, the camera there. See, our pin isn't lined up yet? Right there? We're gonna have to rotate that bearing until it finds the spot. And of course, my hands are all oily, so we just lubricate all that other stuff up. out of the way. Okay. Which are out of the way. Take those guys into their, see the lineup marks. They're not quite lined up right. That one's in. That one's in. That one's in, and now we gotta get that last one. And we're gonna screw it right here. Come on. There it goes, right there. All right, see how that fit nice and flush and clean in there? All right, that was definitely more pain than we'd hoped for. All right, cranks in, all the pins are in position here. Cool. Oh, sorry. All right, next step is going to be to put on our bearing retainer here. It's symmetrical, but if we look on the bottom here, we can see where there's a couple wear marks from the old pins. So we're going to make sure we put it in that direction as an orientation. So this stuff's all nice and clean. Fantastic. And I'm just going to get a couple of these just started so it stays in place. I like to take bolts like this and just put a little bit of oil on the threads. Just leave it up, and then also a little bit of oil under the head of the bolt. And these have a torque value on them. I looked it up, and it's going to be, we're going to torque them to about 14.5 foot-pounds. The range is supposed to be like 11.5 to 15, so we're going to go 14. Pretty close. And when we torque anything like this, we're going to torque it in a crisscross pattern. So we'll get these hand tight with a ratchet, and then we'll use the torque wrench, and we'll like 1, 2, 3, 4, and go back and double check to make sure everything's nice and even. So we'll get all this lubed up, and we'll catch you guys here in a second. So we're doing the first torque sequence here. We're actually using the inch-pound torque wrench, and we got to about 85 inch-pounds. And yeah, go ahead and give them a check again. Yeah, they're not moving. Okay, let's go ahead and bring the torque wrench up to like 170, which is going to be 170 inch-pounds, which is about 14 foot-pounds. And we'll do the same thing. So it's important with the torque wrench when you're using it, you want the wrench to click while you're in the middle of the throw. You don't want to have to stop and come back, just like that. I'll hold that.
That's a static one.
Tell you what, why don't you loosen that one up?
Yep.
And try it again. There you go, that's good. Okay, we start where we started. That we were here, here,
to here.
We need to go
There?
to here. Yeah, crisscross. There you go. All right, let's go back and check the pattern one more time, real slowly with the wrench. Okay. Cool. That'll work. All right, so our next step is going to be to install the shift drum and the shift forks, because they all have to kind of slide in together. And this is the layout of the shift forks, and technically these two are the same, but they will be stamped R and an L. And I know this is the left side, this is the right side right now, but if you drop it into the engine was flipped over and it was sitting on the bike, it's going to be the right and left side of the bike versus this guy being in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and put it together dry first, get all the pieces in, and then we'll go ahead and spray oil in here and get it all lubed up. drop of oil on just on that guy right there, because it's going into that blind hole like that. Okay, cool. So our next task now is going to be to get the pins. There's alignment pins that are going to drop into here on all three forks here. That is what the forks follow, the pattern that's on the shifter drum here. So that needs to be about right there, and we'll go ahead and drop the pins in here, and we'll put the clips on. And lock down the shift drum here and the shift drum retainer. There are countersunk holes in it, and it goes with the little arc kind of facing up here, just like that, holds in that bearing. And then here are the Phillips head screws we're going to use to hold it in place. And you know, we don't definitely want these to back out, and they're going to be hard to tighten up. So I'm just going to put a little drop of blue Loctite on them, so they definitely don't rattle out of the motor here. So we get started. Come on. There you are. One. Two. I can get a little bigger screwdriver. It's a bigger bite on it, but all right. We'll move the different size screwdriver, tighten them up, but we're gonna be good on that. Okay, so we have the shift fork here, and you can kind of see right here. Here's part of the track that the fork rides on. There's the pin that goes in here, so we're gonna kind of line the two up. You see where there's a dark spot, otherwise you see the chrome. Here's the pin. And you can see that one end is longer than we have a little groove in it. The groove pokes out because this is where the clip that retains the pin holds it. So the pins drop in. I'm going to use a little bit of, this is Moly assembly lube here. And I'm just going to use it because it's sticky, and I can squeeze it on the pin, and the pin's not going to just want to fall out of this thing. And it also will be good for the shift fork as well. Something like that. Alright, the pin is in the groove that I've out there, and you can see where it's pretty flush, the surface there. And let me get a clip, and we'll hold it with the clip real quick. All right, so the pin's gonna come in for this first one in this direction. I have it on some locking pliers here, and I don't know there we go, just like that. If you look on the other side here, you can see how the clip comes around the shift fork, and then the pin actually kind of pokes out see how it kind of pokes out here on the end there. So we're going to repeat the process for the other guys here. The flat part gets the loop, so on this fork it would come in from this way. On this fork it's going to come in from that direction. So we'll go ahead and get the rest of the pins and clips in place, and then we'll drop in the gears. So yeah, that's kind of how that's going to be done.
Yeah, I took some assembly lube and I put it in the caged bearing and been spinning it around, making sure it's packed in there. Go back inside its sleeve, and then back onto the transmission.
Cool. We'll get ready to drop those guys in here in just a second. Okay, so we're going to drop in the dowel pins that line up the transmission bearings there. 1 and 2 over here. Pins drop in. I've gone ahead and put some Moly assembly lube on the ends of the shift forks here where they're going to touch, so help break some of the friction down. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of oil here. Make sure to kind of oil up the stuff. Not a ton of oil, I don't want to drip in everywhere, but enough on the shaft there. Okay, we have our ball bearing retainers. And let's put the small one. Should be this guy right here. Looks like a broken half of a piston ring. That. The other one's going to drop in here, like that. Okay. We're going to put the top shift, I guess the shaft in first. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words right now. Just gonna focus on this. I'm bringing the shift fork up. Wanna get up there. Leave that line up here. Did my needle go in yet? Not yet. Just like the crankshaft, it's gonna have a sweet spot. So I'm gonna drop in, all the pins line up. Come on. There it is, right there. Alright, see how it dropped down nice and flush here? So that shaft is in. Alright, we'll do the same thing for the other shaft. Same exercise down below, except now we have 2 shift forks. Okay. These guys are meshing. That guy looks lined up. And there it is there. We're in. Alright. That's seated, okay. The shift transmission is back together there. Okay, we're gonna put the Kickstarter back together. Here's our main Kickstarter shaft. There's our Kickstarter cog. I'll go ahead and put a little bit of oil here on that guy. And I'm gonna put a little bit of assembly lube on the splines there. Nice and sticky. Okay, I'm going to be diligent about putting this guy back in. The gears are going to drop in first, and if you look in the crankcase here, we got this groove. We got that little tang. The groove is going to go in the tang. And then also alright. Before I get too deep with it, I gotta burn the snap ring. Get him in, at least on there. Okay, we're in the groove. That's it. There. That's that. Bring that back. I'm gonna get that snap ring on. You see the snap ring groove there. It's gonna be fun. Alright, that's there, like that. It's going to be its. Alright. Last step is to put our retaining bolt and washer on. That tab side's going to face there, like that. And then you see how the end of the bolt there has got a little flat spot on it? There's a groove in the end of the shaft. And that's it. We'll go ahead and tighten that up, and then we're going to bend up the tab on that guy so it doesn't back out. We're going to install the spring now. If you notice here, we have a stop right up here. Stop goes against this casting here. On the other side of the Kickstarter, we have a hook here, and this part of the spring hooks into it, and then we get to take this guy in and bring him all the way around to up here. So I'm going to get the vice grip and grab this with the vice grip and bring it around. Just like that. All right, just wanted to point out something that we wanted to make sure we talked about. We went ahead and put the cam chain in place before we get the bottom end buttoned up, and we could have put it on when we were dropping the crankshaft in. The split chain, since we have to put it over the cams anyway, but go ahead and put it in now before you have the bottom end buttoned up. And we just ended up lacing it through the holes here and pulling it through. So just remember, do it now before the bottom case is on. Makes it a lot easier to put in place.
And zip tie it.
Yeah, we have it zip tied together right here, so you don't lose the end of it. So I'm giving the surface here that we're going to put the 3-bond on a quick wipe down with a little bit of acetone, just to make sure there's no grease or residue on the pieces. And we'll also wipe down the other half as well. So that's not pretty good. Same deal over here on the lower crankcase. Just going to quick wipe down on the sealing surfaces here. And all the remaining oil and grease off of them. It's good and clean. So Jonathan's actually applying the 3-bond right now, and you can see he's just using his finger. It doesn't take a whole lot for it to lay down really nice and even on the sealing gasket surface. So we do it on both the crankcase side and then the upper engine half side, upper and lowers I guess, and then let it tack and we put the two halves together. So he's just gonna work his way around real gently. The important thing to note about this stuff is it's not RTV silicone. It's a different type of product. It actually smells, you smell the solvent and it flashes off and goes on super thin like this. Okay, so we have the 3-bond on all the surfaces here. We've already installed the crank seal and the clutch pushrod seal here, and we've also put 3-bond on the perimeter of it. And then over here, Jonathan has that guy ready to go. And so that's been tacking up for a minute, and we're going to put both halves together and line up the dowel pins and see what goes on. Okay. If you need to use that, just to kind of tap it down. Put the bolts in. So Jonathan smartly did this little chart on the thing here with each bolt going to where, and we've gone ahead and once you're pulling the bolts out from the big ones and show, we put some anti-seize compound in it.
Threads
under the head there, and we're going to drop them all in place here, and then we'll get them torqued. So we'll get them dropped. Okay, so Jonathan's going to torque into place, and we're going to start in the middle two, and then we're going to work our way out in a crisscross pattern. We're doing the large bolts first, and we're doing a couple of torque sequences, working our way around.
Sure. All
right, and then we'll go ahead and switch out to the smaller socket, and we'll do the smaller bolts. Middle here, this guy, and I'll hold the motor.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go for that one. Come to this guy. And let's get back to that one on the front there that we didn't get to yet. And we'll finish off with this bolt back here. Alright, the engine halves are now back together. And we'll start assembly on the top end tomorrow. Great success.